Well, he's been a constant this year for us. He'll be at the party tomorrow night. For those of you who are going, you'll meet him as well. And that's Craig Stobo, one of New Zealand's leading businessmen, who has turned, business and political commentator over the last year, giving us perspective on a number of things and giving us an insight which would be otherwise denied to us. And he joins us now to give a bit of an insight as well, what's happened over the last wee while and what is going to happen from Monday morning. Craig, welcome to the show, mate. How are you?
Thank you, Michael. Very, very well. Thank you. How are you?
I'm recovering, but I'll be fine.
Yeah, I heard.
I'm actually much better, actually. So I must go and take a test later on. All right.
Man flu's hard, isn't it?
It's not man flu. If only it was. Mind you, man flu's dangerous. Man flu is death stuff. Yeah, you know that. You've had
it. Right, Monday morning.
First of all, just before you start there, the campaign from the perspective of someone who is a leader in the New Zealand business community, how have you found it?
Oh, fabulous question. Can I just run through some thoughts with you? And you and I haven't caucused on this, so it's all spontaneous. But a few things from a business perspective, and bear in mind businesses like certainty as much as possible. So if I looked at, kind of Labour's share of the vote dropping from 50 to, say, 25, so halving over a very rapid period of time, you ask yourself, why is that? You could point to a number of things. That election date being brought forward to accommodate a quarter-final in Paris, it makes you pretty cynical about politicians not running their full term. The honeymoon period with the current Prime Minister was shortened by departures of 5 ministers, which raised issues around capacity and credibility to look after policy issues. The policy bonfire, which was probably more of a potbelly rather than a bonfire, but led to this kind of tragic rollout of a policy tsunami in the last 4 to 6 weeks, which I found embarrassing and very hard to understand. But what it did indicate that this government wasn't campaigning on their record, because it's difficult to justify that, but it became an attack on the opposition. So it was almost roles have been reversed between opposition and government. There's been avoidance of social issues, the pandemic management mandates. The government has largely left business out of their discussions on how we can improve our standard of living. And I think they've been captured by an unexplained co-governance agenda. So that makes it really, really difficult for business. Then I look at what National has tried to do over the last 6 to 12 weeks, and there's a fairly obvious conservative pitch to middle New Zealand to try and capture that vote, not rock the boat too much. Relatively small policy targets, although their tax policy blunder with overseas residents buying houses left them open to criticism, because it depends on how many houses you sell. So it was a vulnerable tax policy they probably didn't need to roll out. Again, they're avoiding social issues really, and more latterly expressed ambivalence on coalition building. And MMP is normally about how coalitions can work together. ACT, really strong, clear policies and what needs to change, both economic and social sphere. But again, ambivalent, or probably less than ambivalent, very clear on what coalition partners they don't want to work with, which I think hasn't contributed to confidence in a coalition building structure. And then New Zealand First, riding bow on the wave of social dissent, sort of indicates that the minnow parties had opportunity to work together but chose not to, and NZ First has picked up all that social dissent, and he has that charismatic populism. So if you had to sort of fast forward to Monday, who was going to lead what Kipling called our last, loneliest, loveliest land, and assuming that the desire for change is correct, we will have a coalition agreement between National, ACT and New Zealand First. Having said that, there are queries that we need to think about. The overhang in Parliament from Port Waikato, possibly from Labour's list seats being disestablished, special votes, and of course the turnout, which is definitely lower than 2020, but maybe similar to 2017, I'm not sure. So there's some caveats there. But, businesses, we try and profitably solve society's problems, and I think there's a desire to change. What is less certain is whether people want a change in government or a change in policies. They're two very different things.
Mm.
But if we could get a coalition agreement sorted that is very clear on what the coalition will do, and of course we want leaders to be able to react to change on the way through in the future. But we have a coalition agreement to start with that included law and order, that included the RBNZ mandate changes, included the RMA changes that enabled development to occur in a more timely, efficient fashion. If we could solve the co-governance issues and try and understand exactly what that means in terms of how we work together as a society. Education, we need to improve the literacy and numeracy of our kids. The current system is not working based on the PISA scores as a starting point. And a welcoming, open attitude to foreign investment, which is not on the current party's agenda, but pretty clear to us that is one way of increasing our standard of living, is welcoming overseas businesses to set up here. So, it seems to me Monday will bring a little bit of a post-mortem for one part of our political spectrum, maybe a big post-mortem.
I guess though, from your point of view, Craig, and from the business community point of view, you want a very clear result tomorrow night. You want the last thing you want.
Yes. What will happen is, assuming the desire for change holds are right, and there is a three-way coalition, we'll have to wait for special votes. We may have to wait for Port Waikato, I don't know. But in any event, the three parties should be working in the background. So what are their bottom lines between the three of them? How will they work together? Will they be constructive? We don't necessarily have a party standing on the crossbenches supporting supply, because nothing changes in that environment. We're in a static environment for 3 years when there's much work to be done. So you're right, we want certainty, but we appreciate the political process, because that's democracy's fundamental to freedom of expression and the freedom of business people to build their businesses.
Can I ask an obvious question, and that is the business community holding off making any decisions at the moment until it seems the real estate market has been waiting for this election, and I've had that comment made by a number of real estate agents. I don't know how accurate that is or not, or whether it's just anecdotal. But is the business community waiting to make decisions, investment or otherwise, depending upon what happens on Saturday night?
I think there's a bigger picture around the economic climate per se, so interest rates and opportunities to grow. CapEx is ongoing. Some decisions have been made and they're being rolled out as we speak. At the margin, yes, there will be some. Whether you want to hang your hat on one party's policies when we have a coalition in prospect would be a risk you'd have to consider. Are you going to have a rapid change in fortunes based on one party's policies after the election? It's unlikely, isn't it? There's going to be a coalition agreement, which may mean some things that are in one party's policies won't be in the coalition agreement.